Welcome to Shanmugam IAS Academy, and today we are going to see the editorial analysis of 29th November 2021. And today the topic is the reforming the fertilizer sector. So this comes under the GS3 agricultural portion, and this is very important as in the form of prelims and the mains. Where it is important, I will tell you that. And first, you need to know where this. Since 1991, when the economic reforms began in India, several attempts have been made to reform the fertilizer sector to keep a check on the rising fertilizer subsidy bill. And what is happening here? What is the issue here? Because there is to promote the efficient use of fertilizers, that is achieve a balanced use of, that is nitrogen, potassium and phosphorus, and reduce the water and air pollution which is caused by the fertilizers like urea. So the nutrient based subsidy, we all know that the fertilizers are provided to the farmers at the subsidized rates based on the nutrients. We all know the nutrients, that is nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium and the sulfur which are contained in these fertilizers. And apart from these, we have some of the secondary fertilizers and fortified with the secondary micronutrients such as the molybdenum and zinc are given additional subsidy. And under this policy, the subsidy on, that is phosphatic and the potassic fertilizers, is announced with the government on annual basis. And the rates, these are not determined by their personal things. These are determined by taking into the account of the international and the domestic prices of potassium and this phosphorus fertilizers, and also the exchange rate is taken into consideration. And this nutrient based subsidy policy, which intends to increase the consumption and that the fertilizer, so that the optimum balance it should be, that is NPK, the ratio of 4:2:1, and this not only improves the soil health, as a result the yield from the crops would also increase, which results the enhancing of the income to the farmers. This is a very good point. And here we need to know this NBS, the fertilizers, which comes under the ministry, that is Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. This we need to know, because in prelims you can be confused with this kind of ministry, and so this is important for you in the prelims point of view. And the government also expects the rational use of fertilizers, and it is implemented by, that is in April 2010. That is what? That is nutrient based subsidy, which is implemented in 2010 by the Department of Fertilizers, which is under the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. This is important. And the urea outside NBS, the urea here, the nutrient based subsidy, we have the nitrogen, the phosphorus, the potassium and the sulfur. Here the urea is outside the NBS. We need to know this, because the question can be like this: does urea is under this NBS or not? So this here you need to be very clear what are the nutrients which are based for the subsidy here, and which are the price of these fertilizers which are decontrolled and have to be 2.5 times more than, that is in the 10 years. And the economic and environmental cost is also important here. The considering the fertilizer subsidy is the second biggest subsidy after the food subsidy, and the NBS policy is not only damaging the physical health of the economy but also providing detrimental to the soil health of the country. And what are the way forward steps? And these NBS, this urea is not only used for the agricultural things, these are also used for the non-agricultural uses, such as the plywood and the animal feed makers are also using this urea. So this subsidized urea is getting diverted to the bulk buyers, not only for the agricultural uses but also to the non-agricultural uses such as the plywood, animal feed makers. And what are the way forward steps here? The government has launched a slew reforms, that is regarding the use of urea. The compulsory for urea, now we are using the compulsory Neem coating of all the urea, and which is directly making the fertilizer subsidy payment to the companies. So this is an important point. We are not using the urea alone. Now the government has included the compulsory neem coating of all the urea, and direct benefit transfers is also taking place for the fertilizers, and because these can bring benefits to the farmers on various fronts, because the improved products and the competitive rates gained from the enhanced exchange and services and sustainable and responsible agricultural production, and this makes them the better earnings for such produce. And however, a feasible way to do it is by hiking the area prices and simultaneously reducing the NBS for phosphorus, potassium and the sulfur to make other fertilizers cheaper. And what is a long term reform here? The NBS itself should be replaced with a flat per acre cash subsidy, and this will be considered as the long term reform. What is the importance of the fertilizer sector? So now we will come into know what is the importance of this fertilizer sector. The importance of the fertilizer sector in India hardly emphasized, as it provides a very vital input for the growth of Indian agriculture, and it is an inevitable factor that has to be reckoned with an attainment of the goal of self-sufficiency in food grains. And what I am saying, this is very important. This is the input for the growth of Indian agriculture, and it is an inevitable factor that has to be reckoned with an attainment of the goal of self-sufficiency in food grains. The fertilizer sector would cover not only the fertilizer industry but also certain other activities. We need to understand that in the agricultural sector, which are very intimately linked with the production and distribution of fertilizers. And the fertilizer industry, the needs of the farmers, who are most important consumers of the fertilizer industry. We all know that the most important consumers here is the farmers are the most important consumers of the fertilizer industry. And the economic survey of the 1991 too, they said that the fertilizer prices has remained almost unchanged for 10 years from 1981 to 91, and the economic survey further noted that even with the 30% increased fertilizer subsidy remains substantial, and which is needed reducing further. And the fertilizer subsidy has been doubled in the short period, that is of 3 years, that is 2021 to 22. The union budget has estimated that subsidy for the fertilizers is more than 79,500 crores, which is very far, because from 2017 and 18 it has been increased to more than 10,000 crores, which is very large factor here. So which is like to reach much higher level due to the recent upsurge in the prices of energy, because this upsurge in the prices of energy will have impact on these fertilizers too, and the international prices of urea and other fertilizers. And India, why this is very high? Because India's dependence of these fertilizers, because India's dependence on imports is very high in this fertilizers category. So that's why in the starting of my video I have told you everything is taken into consideration. The exchange rates, the market rate, the import prices, everything are taken into consideration while giving the subsidy and everything. And 2019 and 20, the fertilizers, this is very important, because the fertilizers which is used per hectare of the cultivated area in the country varied from one region to other regions, because it can be the NPK which can be 70 kg for in Rajasthan, it has been increased to 250 kg in Telangana. So per hectare of the cultivated area, this fertilizer using capacity has been varying in all throughout the regions of the country. And the governments has also, I have already told you, the government introduced the nutrient-based subsidy in 2010 to address the growing imbalance in the fertilizer use in many states. And what are the other way forward steps here? We can see the multiple goals of the fertilizer policy is, we need to be self-reliant and not dependent on import of the fertilizers. This is one point. And other way, in the other direction, the 5 urea plants at the Gorakhpur, the Sindri, the Barauni and Talcher and Ramagundam are being revived in the public sector. And other factors, this NBS model which is extended to the urea and allow for prices of the rationalization and of urea compared to non-nitrogenous fertilizers and prices of the crops. And some of the discussions with the farmers and consumers reveal a strong desire to shift towards the non-chemical fertilizers. Nowadays, we are moving towards the non-chemical fertilizers, as well as the demand for the bringing parity in prices and subsidy is given to chemical fertilizers with organic and biofertilizers. So, the scope to use large biomass of crop that goes waste and enhance the value of livestock byproducts. So, livestock byproducts are also has been used in the form of biofertilizers. This scope has been increasing these days. This is was the point I wanted to tell you here, and we need to scale up the improve of the innovations to develop alternative fertilizers. That is, though compost contains low amounts of nitrogen, technologies are now available to enrich this. So what is the point here? With the help of the technologies, we need to enrich the innovations and which we have to develop, which are alternative to these fertilizers. And however, the biofertilizers are not only the substituents for the chemical fertilizers, they improve the health of the soil and the nutrient to the soil, and the sales of biofertilizers in the country has not picked up because of lack of knowledge. So we have these biofertilizers nowadays, but this in the country has not picked up because lack of knowledge and awareness and the slow impact of the productivity of the soil. And the use of biodiversity, that is, will maintain the soil health, and this more use of these chemical fertilizers will kills the microorganisms available in the soil. So this can be a very defeating factor for us, and so essential for maintaining the soil health. So finally, we need to maintain the soil health. So the using biofertilizers will have good impact on the soil health, and the other supplementary use of biofertilizers with chemical fertilizers can help and maintain the soil fertility over a long period of time. And some of the integrated approaches we also follow, that is, the soils are the storehouse of most of the plant nutrients, and which nutrients are managed will have a major impact on plant growth and the soil fertility too. So farmers, the researchers, the institutions and government all have an important role to play in the sustaining agricultural productivity. So these farmers, the researchers and the other institutions have come in one, all the governments all plays an important role which is for sustaining the agricultural productivity. In conclusion, I will finish this point with this point: the changes will go a long way by enhancing the productivity of agriculture, and this mitigating the climate change and provides an alternative to the chemical fertilizers and balancing the physical impact of the fertilizer subsidy on the union budgets. And this is very important. These are all the points which can be covered in the prelims, some points which I have told you earlier, and those are all important for prelims. And if when you come for the writing of the examination in the mains form, so these points will be very useful for you. And if you have any doubts and queries, just tell us in the comment section. And thank you so much for watching this video.